All oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the Township's website. All comments or questions should be addressed through the chair. We'll begin with application 1. Will the Secretary Treasurer please introduce the first application, item 4.1?
Consent application BO220 by C. Phillips of Celeste Phillips Planning Inc. on behalf of the owner of lands known municipally as 3281 Ushers Road and 1568 County Road 92. The Committee of Adjustment considered the application BO220 for consent under Section 53 of the Planning Act on August 26, 2020, and granted provisional approval subject to 6 conditions. Due to a technical oversight in the circulation process, the Committee of Adjustment will reconsider the provisional consent with intent to amend the conditions as requested by the County of Simcoe.
Have any additional correspondence and or comments been received?
Comments were received from the County of Simcoe Transportation and Engineering Department on September 16th.
Thank you. I understand that we will have Planner Russell update the members of the committee on this application. Please go ahead, Planner Russell.
Thank you, members of committee. The application you have before you tonight is, as the Secretary Treasurer introduced, a revised decision related to an application we heard last month for the Elmvale Flea Market severance proposal. Throughout the application process, my discussions with the county staff revolved mainly around the planning merits of the application and the county's land use planning policy, which you have quoted in the original staff report. My understanding is the county's transportation engineering department is seeking 2 additional conditions, which is the reason for the revised decision here tonight. One of those conditions relates to a 5-meter road widening along the entire frontage of Highway 92. And the second relates to an agreement on how those lands, those transfer lands will operate until such time as the county moves forward with road improvements along 92. My position with respect to the severance has not changed, and township staff are still in support of the application. The committee will need to decide tonight whether to include the new conditions as requested by the county on the basis that they do have the legal authority under the Planning Act to ask for such widenings, as well as the mandate to do so when they're able to. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Russell, for the update. Can I please have the applicant and or agent introduce themselves and provide comment, if any?
Mr. Chairman and members of committee, my name is Celeste Phillips. I'm the agent and planning consultant for Elmvale Flea Market. My client is not supportive of the conditions suggested by the County of Simcoe, and I would like the record to show that my client does not support these conditions. As the committee may recall, the owner of this property, Mr. Bates Sr., wishes to divest himself of the flea market and retire in the house on the property. But the county's requested conditions are just so significant that I need to express my client's concerns. Just to summarize what the county is asking for, they're asking for an entrance permit for a use that has existed for over 60 years. And that's not a big deal, but I just wanted you to know that it seems a little odd that they would request that. And as Planner Russell has suggested, they're asking for a 5-meter road widening, and that has an implication to the business operation of the Elmvale Flea Market. They've asked for my clients to pay all costs associated with the preparation, registration of the reference plan showing the widening. They've asked for my client to pay all the land registry costs. They've asked my client to pay all of the county's costs for their in-house legal work, the negotiation and preparation of a development agreement, and the registration of that agreement on title. In addition to that, because there is a fence and laneway associated with the Elmvale Flea Market within that 5-meter widening that they're requesting, the county wants the flea market to enter into this development agreement and be responsible from a liability insurance perspective for any incident that occurs on what will be, if my client agreed, to county property, and this just seems to be totally unreasonable. So it's my position to you tonight that the requested conditions are inappropriate in these circumstances and are not reasonable, and ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste. Are there any members of the public registered to make an oral submission?
Thank you, Chair. There are no members of the public which registered to make an oral submission for this application.
Thank you. Does anyone from the committee wish to comment or have any questions on the proposed amendment or conditions?
Thank you, Chair Russell. My only concern and one of my interests is there, in the existing property that we've approved for severance, there's another entry. So as the flea market has functioned, it has functioned with an exit and entry off of 92. Also there is also an entry exit beside the property that we're approving for severance. I'm not sure that either or is relevant, but I know that two have existed, and now we're going to go to one. So maybe 5 meters is a little strong through the whole front of the property, but perhaps a turning lane rather than a whole entry. I think I agree with the planner. I think it's a little zealous for a 15-meter lane there.
Thank you. Any other members?
To you, Chairman, so are they asking for 15 meters off the whole front? So in case they're wanting to make the road 4 lanes, is that what they're requesting, or is it strictly just to do with the laneway?
May I answer that?
Go ahead, Celeste.
Oh, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. The county is requesting a 5-meter road widening across the entire frontage on Highway 92. So when you look at the property, the fence that's in front of the flea market is right at the property line. So the county wants 5 meters into the property beyond the fence. And in that area is where there are laneways functioning as part of the business. So although the county is saying, well, you can keep the business operation, you need to take liability for any accident or injury that takes place on the county's land from the operation of the flea market. So I have tried for the last week to try and explain to the county how significant this widening is and what the impact is for my client, who really just seeks to sever off the house so that he can retire. And as you probably know, the county takes widenings all across the county, but can never really specify when they'll actually ever need this widening.
Thank you, Celeste. Any further, Member Vandermeulen?
Yeah, just, I get that. They're just putting it in writing, stating that they're taking a 5-meter, they're moving their boundary back 5 meters. When and if it ever is going to happen, who knows? But I know in one other instance that we had earlier this year, that was a request along that highway too. And so, and I mean, the bottom line is I think they have the right to expropriate, I guess, or if they need to widen the highway. So.
Yes, in this instance, though, what they're doing is they're taking the widening for free, which is their right as part of a planning application that I filed. But what goes beyond the pale is that they've asked for my client to pay all of the costs associated with giving that land to them for free, as well as enter into a development agreement and get liability insurance. It just sort of goes on and on. So that's part of the difficulty with this one.
So would that mean that you'd have to do some more negotiating with them then? Because is there room
No,
for?
I don't think so. I think I've tried, I've tried over this past week to try and explain to them how significant this is to my client. So much so that he may just abandon the whole idea of retiring in that house because what's being asked of him is just so significant that he may abandon the severance completely if this is the way the county wants to go with it.
Member Kennedy, have you any comments?
Thank you, Chair Cooney. Just from my perspective as a comment to other committee members here, in my professional life, this is a typical request from the county. These conditions are a typical request from the county. We see this typically on any type of planning application where there is a need and the opportunity, again, through the Planning Act, for the county to take this road widening. With regards to the applicant's planner's comment about not knowing when the road would be reconstructed and the widening would be necessary, again, that is standard across the board. So the master transportation report planning for the county of Simcoe looks at all of their corridor roads, 92 having to be one, and their ultimate width, they've said here, is a requirement for 36 meters. I don't personally find that this is over and above anything that they would ask any other applicant.
Thank you, Member Kennedy. I have a question for Planner Russell with respect to the county official plan. And I think Member Kennedy has answered it, but is the right-of-way widening identified in the county official plan through that area? And the second question I have is the county could appeal this application and delay it further if the committee should decide not to impose these conditions. Thank you.
That's absolutely correct, Member Cooney. Usually there's a schedule at the back of the official plan identifying roads and their ultimate widths, just as Member Kennedy has identified. So that is where they have the mandate to acquire these lands, as well as the legal authority to do so under the Planning Act. And you're absolutely right. If these conditions were struck today, or tonight rather, the county would maintain appeal authority and potentially be able to delay this application further through the LPAT process, or at least until it's dealt with.
Thank you, Planner Russell. Celeste, just a couple of questions for you in that regard, understanding that the county probably would seek to appeal it, and I understand that your client may then reconsider the application. And the other question I have for you is, or not, that was a comment, but the question I have is, I think the land area that they're identifying, that they're asking your client to continue to insure because of the encumbrances of the laneways and some of the fencing that's in the lands to be conveyed, would it maybe be best for your client to just move the fence and move the activities within the flea market outside of those lands being conveyed, and then there's no, I guess, requirement that then carry liability requirements or for insurance purposes for the area that's occupied within the road allowance? It would just then become free and clear to the county with no encumbrances or any use from the flea market. Has your client considered that?
Through you, Chair Cooney, or to you, Chair Cooney, the difficulty with that approach, and I did look at it, that is that the way that the flea market operates is by way of a series of parallel roadways where the stalls are set up. So the 5 meters, it sort of upsets the way that the business is operating there. And I did want to say that I don't dispute that the county has the authority to request a road widening as part of a planning application. What I have a lot of difficulty with is the extent of financial outlay my client would have to give to the county in order to give them this free widening. That's part of my concern, and I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for the committee to consider some sort of a recommendation that puts the onus for financial matters back to the county rather than to my client.
I'm going to refer to Planner Russell on that for some suggestions, Member Kennedy first.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to members. So, and through to you as well, Celeste. So what you are proposing would be a cost deferral to the taxpayers of the county of Simcoe versus your client paying for these legal and survey and other administration costs in his request for this application.
Through you, Chair Cooney, no, not at all. In fact, the county has in-house legal counsel, so he is on staff. So he is paid by the county already for the performance of his position. It's that my client would then have to pay an hourly rate for his review and preparation of a development agreement and the work associated with giving this widening to the county.
Are you happy with that? Okay. Any comments, Planner Russell, on the Celeste's suggestions?
Yeah, I think my concern with that would be if we do begin to modify on the fly these conditions, and they are approved with a modified situation, the county would still maintain those appeal rights, and we could ultimately end up delaying this application in any event. So at this point, I think it's really at the discretion of the county, or excuse me, the committee.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns from the members? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think just the comment is that the cheapest way is to move the fence back the amount that you're supposed to, and then beyond that, it's the county's responsibility to maintain that widening. But at least then you've taken away the liability of the fence. You've taken away all that stuff, and be done. And as far as setting up your site, I mean, yes, they're going to take some adjustment, but you'll have to work with that.
Thank you, Member Van der Weyden. Any further comments or questions? Do I have a motion? Oh, I heard, sorry.
Should be there, yeah, I was like,
Okay. Date, September 23rd, 2020. In the matter of consent, do I have a mover and a seconder, sorry? Moved by Patty Kenny, second by Henry Van der Weyden. In the manner of consent application B02-20 for lands known municipally as 3281 Ushers Road and 1568 County Road 92, and legally described as Part Lot 10, Concession 9, former Floss, now in the Township of Springwater, roll number 4341 030 006 117 000000. That the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicant provisions of Section 53 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the subject land and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the subject application dated August 26, 2020, the correspondence received and the information presented at the hearings held on August 26, 2020 and September 23, 2020, and the discussion on the matter, hereby approve of the application as applied for subject to the following amended conditions. 1, that the applicant meet all the requirements, financial or otherwise, of the municipality. 2, that the applicant provide 2 copies of the registered survey of the severed lot prepared by an Ontario land surveyor. 3, that the owner applicant satisfy and be responsible for all costs to satisfy Section 65 of the Drainage Act, 1990, if applicable. Number 4, that the applicant rezone the severed residential lands to a site-specific zone in order to restrict permitted uses to the residential. 5, that the applicant rezone the retained flea market lands to a rural commercial exception bracket CR-XY bracket zone to prohibit further residential uses from being constructed. 6, that it be confirmed that a private well and septic system are wholly contained within the property limits of both the severed residential lands and the retained commercial lands prior to the registration of the severance. 7, that the applicant shall consider to the corporation of the County of Simcoe County at no cost a fee simple unencumbered interest in the following: a road allowance widening along the entire frontage of the severed and retained property adjacent to County Road 92 to provide an 18-meter right-of-way from the center line of County Road 92 to the satisfaction of the County of Simcoe, and in accordance with the Transportation and Engineering Letter dated September 16th, 2020. 8, the applicant shall enter into an agreement with the county to be registered on title for any structures such as a fence abutting County Road 92 and internal laneways that remain within the county's right-of-way in accordance with the Transportation Engineering Letter dated September 16, 2020. Note, if all conditions of this decision have been fulfilled within 1 year from the date of this notice of decision is mailed and all authorities have no notification to the committee in writing, the Secretary Treasurer is authorized to provide a certificate as provided by subsection 53 bracket 42 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 CP 13. Do I continue to read the rest of it as well? Or are we going to vote on the first portion? Okay. On the first part of the motion, do I have one? To vote, yeah. All in favor? Passed. So that is adopted and approved. Thank you. Go on to the next application, number 2.
Minor variance, application A0920 by R. Bingley, owner of lands known municipally as 29 Allenwood Road. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit a deck measuring 30.49 square meters, 328.2 square feet in size on the subject property, which will result in an increase to the permitted lot coverage, as described as being a maximum lot coverage of 39.66%, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum of 35%.
Thank you. Have we any additional correspondence or comments being received on this matter?
On September 22nd, an email from Louisa Kerr-Kanzi of 27 Allenwood Road asking to be notified of the decision and advising that she has no concerns with the proposed deck was received. The chief building official also advised staff that he has no objections to the proposal on September 23rd.
Thank you. Can I please have the applicant or agent, if applicable, introduce themselves and present the application?
Yes, good evening. My name is Ross Bingley. I'm the owner and applicant in this matter. I believe the documentation and the measurements are kind of self-explanatory. The proposal that we're requesting, like for the deck to be larger, is basically based on personal issues in that I have children and grandchildren down the road that are here often, and I wanted to provide a space to have like an additional area and play area for the children with the proper railing and gate on the stairs, etc. And the deck, the proposal of the deck it fits right within the confines of the shape of our house.
Thank you. Do I have any oral submissions or comments?
Thank you, Chair. No members of the public have registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Do I have any comments or concerns from committee members? None? I have a motion here for this application. File number A0920 dated September 23rd, 2020. Applicant R. Bingley. I have a mover. Seconded. Okay. So it was moved by Henry Vanderweilen and seconded by Rick Webster, that the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the application dated 23/20/2020, the correspondence received and the information presented at the hearing held on September 23rd, 2020, and the discussion on the matter hereby approve of the application A0920 as applied for. All in favor? Passed by consent by all members. Thank you, Mr. Bingley. The appeal period will now apply for the next 20 days, correct? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Moving on to application number 3. Will the Secretary introduce item 4.3 on the agenda?
Minor variance application A1020 by A Suave of Full Circle Developments on behalf of the owners of lands known municipally as 1249 St. Vincent Street. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit the construction of a pergola and gazebo on the subject property, which will exceed the total area of accessory buildings and lot coverage permitted, as described as being a maximum total area of accessory buildings of 93.65 square meters, 1,008 square feet, whereas the bylaw requires that the maximum total area of accessory buildings shall be 65 square meters, 699.86 square feet, and a maximum lot coverage of 21.4%, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum lot coverage of 20%.
Thank you. Have we any additional correspondence or comments on this matter?
On September 23rd, staff received comments from the chief building official advising that he has no objections to the proposal.
Thank you. Can I please have the applicant or agent introduce themselves and present the application?
Hello, my name is Albert Zove, and I'm working for the owner of the property to get this application going.
Thank you.
And Bill Hodgson here, the landowner.
Oh, thank you. Do we have any oral comments or submissions on this?
No oral submissions
No?
received.
Thank you. Any members of the committee have any issues or concerns? Member Kennedy?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the applicants, I note that the chief building official has made a comment with regards to the location of your septic distribution pipes. I just wondered if you could clarify for me if that, there seems to be on your sketch, there's 2 circles, which I assume are your septic tank, and then a line with 3 lines perpendicular to that line. Is that to represent where your septic bed is located in your rear yard?
That is correct. As per the documents we got from the township, we made the sketch, we made the layout on the land to actually know exactly where it is in proportion to where we were proposing to build the gazebo and the pergola. So yes, that is what it is.
So you will be confirming that the pergola foundation won't be impacting your bed or your mantle for your septic system?
That is correct. We are within the allowable distance from the tile bed filter, from the tile bed filter line. So I believe we're within the requirement distance.
And with regards to bringing in equipment to the rear yard, you're going to be clear of that as well. So I just want to make sure that you're aware that you know, the heavy equipment that you may be bringing in to construct this, or just even bringing your material in, you want to stay as far away from those runs as possible so that you don't damage that bed.
That is correct. We've already built a garage, which is at the rear of the property, and there was no problem to the tile bed, and we were nowhere near it. So yes, that has been taken into consideration.
Thank you for clarifying that and making the presentation. Are there any further comments or concerns of the committee members? No? Then I'd like to put forward a motion. Do we have a mover? Move. Rick and Patty. Okay. Moved by Rick Webster, seconded by Patty Kennedy. File A10-20 dated September 23rd, 2020, applicant A. Sauvé, that the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration to the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the application dated September 23rd, 2020, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearing held on September 23rd, 2020, and the discussion on the matter, hereby approve application A10-20 as applied for. All in favor? All passed. Carried by all. Thank you for your application, and as indicated, you have a 20-day appeal period before the application is fully approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Application number 4, will the secretary introduce item 4.4 on the agenda?
Minor variance application A1120 by M. Carcola, owner of lands known municipally as 5 Forest Hill Drive. The purpose and effect of this application is to permit the construction of a detached accessory building, 94.76 square meters, 1,020 square feet in size, on the subject property, which will exceed the total area and height of accessory buildings permitted, as described as being a maximum total area of accessory buildings of 108.14 square meters, 1,164 square feet, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum of 65 square meters, 699.86 square feet, and a maximum height for an accessory building or structure of 4.88 meters, 16 feet, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum of 4.5 meters, 14.76 feet.
Thank you. Do we have any additional correspondence or other comments?
Staff have received 2 letters of support from Lucas and Isabella Brown of 3 Forest Hill Drive and from Gord Graves of 7 Forest Hill Drive, both dated August 25th, 2020. On September 21st, the Simcoe County District School Board provided their comments and requested that the owner agree to erect or maintain any existing fence separating the subject property with the adjacent elementary school with no gated access to the school property. The chief building official advised staff on September 23rd that a building permit application for the building has not been received and that based on the information available, the accessory building would not impact the existing septic system and that the separation between the building and the septic system appears to be satisfactory. On September 23rd, the township's engineer advised that they have no concerns.
Thank you. Can I please have the applicant or agent introduce themselves and present their application?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Oh, hi, it's Mike Corkla, 5 Forest Hill Drive, Midhurst, Ontario. So I'm looking at constructing a hobby workshop in the back of my property, as Lauren had mentioned, 960 square feet with an open gable entryway to bring it to 1,020 square feet. The design will be in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. It will basically look like a pool house, but will be a workshop on the interior with a small storage space. There will be green space on either side between my 2 neighbors who have both approved the project and endorsed it, and green space as well behind the building, which is Forest Hill Public School. All fences will be maintained.
Thank you. Do we have any oral presentations or anything from the public waiting?
The public registered to make an oral submission.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Do we have any members of the committee that have any comments or concerns? Oh, Member Webster.
Thank you, Chair Cooney. The only concern I have is drainage. I don't believe that you can, I think there'd be a 3-meter setback from the school property. However, the property slopes to the school property, and the gable roof, as presented in the drawing, would run off that right onto that 3 meters, and I couldn't get a notion of where that drainage would go after that. That's my only concern.
Thank you. Go ahead, Brianna.
Thank you. Through you, the chair, to Member Rick. There is we did confirm with engineering today and Public Works that there is a 3-meter drainage easement along the rear of those properties, and engineering had no concerns based on that fact. Of course, drainage will also be looked at time of building permit review.
Thank you, and I think I'll speak to the applicant here that you should be very positive about that, because if it does drain onto that school property, somehow, I'm sure they'll make you aware of it before immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Webster.
Sorry, it's Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, it's Mike Corkley here. I actually couldn't hear what was being said of what the comment was.
Oh, thank you. If you can repeat that, Member Webster.
Yeah, to the applicant, I want to make sure you know that in the way that you have the building designed, the roof water will run off the roof onto the 3-meter setback, and could ultimately then continue to run because of the slope, could run onto the school property, and you will get immediate response from the school board should that occur. So you'll want to be sure of that before you start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Webster. Member Kennedy? You had comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, to staff. So I'm follow up on Member Webster's comment. I'm a little confused and concerned with the comments from the chief building official and the response from the town engineering department. So the CBO states that the property appears to slope toward the southwest. As such, the structure may require alteration to grades to accommodate this building and/or affect drainage patterns. Although a detailed site plan is not a typical review component for accessory building for building services, it may be advisable to solicit additional comments from Public Works/Township Engineer, as there may be limited alternative drainage options. Claude's response was no concerns. The existing 3-meter drainage easement along the rear lot line should not be impacted by the proposed accessory building. The CBO is not stating, in my opinion, any impact to that drainage easement. He's stating that there's going to be a drainage concern based on construction of this structure. So, through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps to senior planner, can we request a lot grading plan as part of the chief building official's comments here?
Planner Russell?
Thank you. I may defer to Director Spagnell as well, who's on the line, but yes, that would be my understanding, is you can add a condition for a lot grading plan to be provided and reviewed by the building department.
Can you repeat that, Chris, please? It was hard to hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I may defer to the director as well here, but my understanding would be that yes, you can include a condition for a lot grading plan to be reviewed by the building department as part of this.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Member Kennedy, or would you like the chief building official, or sorry, the planning manager to comment? Over.
No, I think my comment then would be my recommendation based on the CBO's comments here and the town engineer's response that doesn't, in my opinion, address the CBO's comment. I would put forward that we recommend that a grading plan be part of this building permit application to ensure that there is no negative impact from the construction of this structure on either the neighboring properties and or the school property.
Thank you. Any comments from other members of the committee?
Does this not come under the, when they come to apply for a building permit, all that stuff's got to be put in? So they're the ones who got to determine whether there's got to be drainage work done or anything like that. We're just here to approve or disapprove of this this here proposal, is it not?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Vander Weylen. Yes, the committee is here to make a decision on the proposed variance, so increase in size, in height, and size of the accessory structure. It's my understanding that the chief building official has the ability to require a grading plan when felt necessary through the building permit review process.
Thank you for that. I understand Member Kennedy's concerns, though, because the chief building official seems to be diverting it to the Public Works Department, Engineering Department, and the township engineer, who don't seem to give it any consideration as well.
Just for a point of clarification, in case it helps, the response we received from Claude was a direct response to the comments received from Nick as well. So those comments were forwarded to the engineer, and that was the response we received in turn today.
Thank you. Member Webster?
Thank you, Chair Cooney. I think the issue, as much as anything here, could be the missing plan, if you will, of the building and exactly what the building is going to look like, and exactly the plan that would be brought to the building official for a building permit. It doesn't exist. And the chief building official has said that he's somewhat compromised in his comments because he doesn't have that plan. So, well, I know that you wouldn't want to go ahead maybe to have a sophisticated plan created. You want to make sure you can do it before you do that. I understand the applicant's got that part right, but I also understand how a building official could be challenged to make a comment based on, you know, where the thing is, what the structure is going to look like. And he may have recommendations at the time. There may be a chance for the applicant to go to the building department and say, what can I do that would be right here before I actually go draw a plan. So kind of leave the door open for that, I would think.
Thank you. Member Webster, any further comments? Member Kennedy?
Just point of clarification, I think what I'm trying to get to here is that the town engineering consultant does not appear to interpret what the CBO was actually commenting on. And moving forward, perhaps we can get that clarified a little bit better in the future. I don't disagree that there is no plan, no building application in front of the CBO at the present time. I'm hopeful if the other members don't want to move forward with the recommendation that a grading plan be a condition. I'm hopeful that our building department will, with planning staff, perhaps go back to the engineering consultant and have him take a closer look at what the CBO's concerns actually were, and not with regards to whether or not the structure is going to impact the existing drainage easement that's there. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Kennedy. Any further comments from the members? Do I have a move, someone to move and second this motion? Moved by Rick Webster, second by Henry. On this file, A11-20, dated September 23rd, 2020, applicant M. Corcola, moved by Rick Webster, seconded by Henry Vanderwheelen, that the Committee of Adjustment, having given consideration of the applicable provisions of Section 45 of the Planning Act, the official plan of the Township of Springwater, the characteristics of the land in question and its surroundings as addressed in the planning report on the application dated September 23rd, 2020, the correspondence received and information presented at the hearing held on September 23rd, 2020, and the discussion on the matter, hereby approve application A1120 as applied for, subject to the following condition: that the owner shall agree to erect or maintain any existing fence separating the subject property with the adjacent elementary school with no gated access to the adjacent school property to the satisfaction of the Simcoe County District School Board. All in favor? Passed by all, carried by all. Thank you very much. The application has received approval from the committee. You'll now have the 20-day appeal period. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
That's our applications for the evening. Other business? Is there any other business to discuss this evening?
Staff has no additional business to discuss this evening.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Henry? Patty? I have a motion for adjournment at 7:49. All in favor? Passed. Carried by all.